Hello, hello. It's Coyote Christina, surfer, author, dream weaver. We are in week 5 of the Amazed and Amused campaign. And it is a full moon, and it is the Capricorn full moon. We are in the relation stage of the journey, and we just talked about what is with the first section, and now we're going into the empowerment section of the relation stage. The main skill set we focus on during empowerment is the ability to abide in the present moment, and this leads to self-determination is the main goal. And just the overall for the relation stage of the journey, what our skill set is healthy ways of being in the world. And so to interact healthily with other people, we need to be present in the moment. We need to be acting on information and what's happening right here, right now, and not be triggered by past events that have happened or worried too much about the future. So I want to start with the full moon. Hope you got out and howled a little bit, or get out and howl at the moon. It always looks full for at least a couple days. The day before, the day after, it looks full as well. So and at Spirit Daughter is my favorite, kind of aligning ourselves with nature and the rhythms of nature. She does astrology, and I just find it fun and interesting she's at Spirit Daughter on Instagram or .com. She has a website. I'm just going to read a little bit about what the Spirit Daughter says. The most grounding full moon of the year arrives on July 10th. It is asking one question: what's actually worth your energy? With 6 months left in 2025, the Capricorn full moon is your cosmic checkpoint. Time to review your commitments, release your distractions, and get ruthlessly focused on what matters. Your scattered attention, those half-hearted commitments, saying yes when you mean no, the endless to-do lists that leave you drained. Capricorn has zero patience for energy leaks. This full moon doesn't just illuminate what's draining you, it dares you to choose differently. And I really like that. I feel like that's something that speaks to me strongly right now. I feel like I have too much on my plate and trying to keep up with it all and decide how to find that balance and not leak energy, be focused and get things done. So we're just going to jump in now to Amazed and Amused. I'm going to read a little bit about the relation stage and how it pertains to the empowerment section. And then our animal totems for the empowerment section are moose, bear, fox, badger, and tiger. And we actually talked about tiger in the last full moon. We'll review it a little bit. But if you want to hear about tiger medicine, the primal power of tiger medicine, go back to week 1 on Wednesday in the full moon post. And today we'll talk a little bit about moose and bear. So here we go. When we enter the relation stage of the journey, many of us stumble upon our very own Pandora's box that we willfully or unwittingly open and discover that we have tapped into a level of consciousness that perhaps we did not want. Ignorance is bliss, after all. But that we can no longer deny. It is ignorance that creates the far-reaching and detrimental effects of opening Pandora's box. And if we no longer desire to harm ourselves or others with our unconsciousness or willful ignorance, we must take action to educate ourselves and overcome the prejudice of our circumstances. No longer controlled by fear or anger, no longer accepting a truth provided by outward sources without question, especially when it creates an uneasiness within. Will we accept the faith that has been preached to us by our families, our religions, our society, content to be spoon-fed truth from the pulpit or from the anonymous public space of the online world that promotes vicious attacks to garner more attention and relies on scapegoats and an us versus them mentality that feeds on fear and doles out blame with no backing? I'm all too familiar with the forces of fate, the footsteps of the Furies, in the form of a father that disappeared, never to return, and the disabled dad with severe brain damage that replaced the father I lost. A disabled dad who needed to be cared for instead of being a caregiver for his children. My personal experience motivates me to move away from fate whenever possible, with the understanding that while at times fate is unavoidable, it is not inevitable, and it does not have to be dreaded or feared. When we find ourselves in pain, it can be hard to accept what is without wanting or wishing things to be different. We question God, Allah, Buddha, the Great Spirit. We question others. We question ourselves. We question life. We wonder, why is this happening to me? Playing into the role of a helpless victim. When we decide to free ourselves from ignorance and circumstance, we learn to ask better questions. How did this happen? Did I play a role in the outcome? These questions frame life in a way that allows us to be an active participant rather than a helpless bystander. Empowerment is more about perception than power. It is the realization that life is not happening to me, but rather I am life. We begin to grasp this concept during the realization stage and begin to live it during the relation stage. And once we take action to build the life of our dreams, we begin to understand how to define our world, no longer content with being defined by outside forces. This is the start of empowerment that leads to self-determination. Empowerment is a continual process of maintaining a healthy perspective and building the discipline needed to make life-affirming choices. When we call moose, bear, fox, badger, and tiger to our side, they give us the right combination of self-worth, contemplation, observation, boldness, and determination to embrace our inner power and work to build the life of our dreams, laying claim to our birthright of joy that lands us on the shores of the graces. We discovered during the relation stage that a simple shift in perspective can change our whole life. We begin to plan and act according to what is, and this taps into our power to build the life of our dreams, focusing mainly on the journey and becoming less and less concerned with the destination. So that's an introduction to the empowerment stage, and then we'll talk about moose and bear. Here's moose. It is moose medicine that carries us into the empowering leg of our inner journey once we embrace the courage to relate honestly with ourselves. During this section of the relation stage, we are learning to move away from heartbreak by accepting what is without conditions, and moose joins us to encourages us to lighten up and give ourselves and each other a well done. Moose medicine provides the foundation needed to build healthy relationships with ourselves and with others by reminding us that ego can ruin our sense of accomplishment and that often we are our own worst critic. When we are out of balance, when we don't feel quite right, sometimes our ego can kick into overdrive and create a lot of doubt and worry and begin to attempt to control outcomes. When our ego is our master instead of our servant, we generally experience a lot of stress and worry because we are fixated on proving ourselves, on being better than others, on outcomes and what we want, instead of letting go, accepting what is, and trusting the universe to provide. And then a little bit about bear. It is in the cave of bear, in the womb of Mother Earth, that we find the answers. The skill of introspection does not come naturally to those of us raised in an outwardly facing, consumer-based society and in a religion where truth was preached from the pulpit with little reference to the knowing deep within. Empowerment was not a word I heard in church growing up. Servitude, submission, these were the words that were preached with little, if any, mention of the wisdom within and the connection to it that can be developed with introspection, with prayer, and the surrendering of our individualized ego to a greater power, whether it be God, Allah, Buddha, the Great Spirit, or universal consciousness. Give it any name you like or do not name it at all. The reference is to something that is greater than each of us. As summer burns on, it is time to retreat to the cool, secluded cave of bear and the stillness that provides access to answers. When we are tired and we need a break from the heat and from the endless to-do list in life, it is good to enter the cave of bear. Always busy and always distracted can lead to a life of exhaustion. It is time to unlearn these coping mechanisms that we develop some of us develop for most of our lives to keep away from the pain that we're unwilling to feel, unable to process at a young age perhaps. It is time to ask Bear to show us how to manage the endless to-do list without the stress and without the need to be distracted. When we are no longer running or avoiding, we can learn how to work smarter, not harder. And with the introspection of Bear, we can walk the path of silence, calming the inner chatter and discover the rite of passage that allows our inner fire to burn through all blocks and fears. So that's the start of the empowerment stage. We've got Bear to ground us and secure us and go into stillness and into the womb of Mother Earth, returning down into our root chakra, down to be grounded and have faith and that we know the answers, and only we can answer a lot of those questions. What's best for us? What are our main goals? And then Moose, I think, is like a lighthearted just way to like quit beating ourselves up with it's not having that overactive ego, but just having a strong ego that's excited about life, cheering others on, cheering yourself on, and not getting so harsh and critical about things. So hope you enjoyed that. If you can, for the Amazed and Amused campaign, I have a big goal of getting as many subscribers as possible on Substack. I just finished I read from Amazed and Amused. I finished the rough draft, and I'm working on getting it professionally edited. So, and I would love to have a publisher getting published as an author. So if you could just go on and subscribe, then if I get 20,000 subscribers, maybe even 2,000 subscribers, that would be the intention of a publisher to get published. And then if you want to buy, if you're really enjoying the material and you want to have it and be able to look through it and see the full sections and not just a paragraph or two about each animal guide, then you can go on to tkcdreams.net, onto the website, and you can purchase as a pre-sale. So links are in the bio, also on Insta. So would love to hear from you, and take care. Bye-bye.